Hi folks, I'm going to do this Markbook tutorial in two parts. The first part is more on a sort of administrative part, essentially whoever is administering front office in the school or the Markbook itself. Oh, sorry, excuse me, I just ate a whole slab of caramel chocolate because I'm worth it. Well, that was very sweet. Okay, and basically so it's just a little bit of a few things to check to make sure that that things are in line. Um, Nothing out of the ordinary, really. Things that probably should be in place already. Excuse me. The first thing to check here is just to double check something here, and that is that your network path is actually a trusted location. In fact, this would have sometimes we send you updates that add tables to your data file and then actually enable you to it adds a table to your data file and your front office automatically links to that table. Sometimes folks get a sort of trusted error when that happens. It asks you to click OK, you click OK, it still does the table, but when you do the Markbook and you import the tables, it's going to want you to click OK for every table. Well, you can circumvent this by making sure that your network path is a trusted location. And essentially, if you just go to more commands in your front office, trust center settings, trusted locations, and you see, so my server path is actually the F drive. It's written the server path down here, but if I was to go to browse, right, I would just be simply selecting my sorry, my F drive here. Okay, so in some cases you guys have called it your Z drive or your I drive or whatever the case may be, but it's basically where your data file resides, and you can tell this by virtue of the fact that, well, I'll show you your links now. You can tell exactly where it is, and make sure you tick the subfolders of this location are also trusted, and then you click OK. Also make sure that this allow trusted locations on my network is ticked. Okay, and then you click add location and you browse to your server location. If you're not sure where your server location, you can check in two places. You can check in your tables. If you hover your mouse over the tables, you can see, right, that's the F drive. Or if you go to your global settings, you can see your server path over there. The other thing to make sure of is in your setup users and your profiles. Well, there's two things. The one is that whoever is going to be the Markbook developer, so to speak, in your school, or not the Markbook developer, but the Markbook administrator. You could have more than one person. I'm doing this for the sake of setting up. I'm going to show you. It's really simple to set up. The computer that receives updates from us should be the computer that the Markbook is set up on. And as I say, it's very simple. So if you click on one of your profile numbers and you double click it, just make sure that this Markbook developer is ticked for your profile. And then also, folks, make sure that when you've set up these users, you set up your staff as users, go and assign the teacher to that. I noticed in some schools they haven't assigned the teacher to these usernames. So go and assign the teachers so that when the tables are pulled through into the Markbook, it knows it knows who it knows the teachers and enables you can select the teacher's name and log in with their normal front office credentials. Right. So what we will do now is let's go to the Markbook. I have put the Markbook in Dropbox. So, oops, that's not Dropbox. So if you go to your Dropbox folder, what I'll do is I'll actually access it like as if. Remember that you can, when you click this arrow and you go to your Dropbox, you can just double click on this Dropbox icon and it opens. Should open the last Dropbox folder you had open. Okay, and you open your front office. I've put the Markbook in here. It's very simple. Copy it. Go to your CISOF folder. Okay. Right click paste. Okay, I'm not going to replace my file. I'm going to skip it. You won't have one yet, so it'll just put it in there for you. If you do, just replace it. As I say, I'm going to skip that file because I've already got it. Then and then you simply right click and extract here. Okay. Now the Markbook is now it's actually set to be a fresh installation, if you like, and so it's ready to be set up. And you'll see that the setup needed is very simple. You're going to do two things. You're going to browse to the data, which is the same data that front office is linked to, and you're going to click fetch tables. Okay, so the first thing you do is you click browse data. Now I'm going to go to my F drive. Okay, I'm going to locate my data current, click open, and I'm going to click fetch tables. Alright, okay, don't worry about it. If you do something wrong here, you can start again. It's not a problem. And what it's actually doing now is it's bringing the front office tables into the system. So I say it's important that you set up your profiles. If you miss one or two profiles, you get them wrong, it's not too much of a train smash. It's not a train smash at all, because then you can use this refresh data later on. I'll show you how you can do it. Same principle applies for, if new learners arrive in the school, or anything changes of that nature, new staff, or okay, so we'll just wait for the tables to come in. Takes 30 seconds or so. It's coming over the network, might take slightly longer. Well, actually mine is coming over the network, so shouldn't be too long. I'm not going to pause the video and thing. I'll leave it running so we can actually get a sense of it. And this is the part where, as I say, it's important that you've done the trusted locations, because it'll be asking you to click OK for every single table that it wants to bring through the network. Right, so you can see it's pulled all the tables in from front office in here. It's saying link to the data is available. In other words, it knows that it's at school and it can see this data file. So it knows that it's available, but it isn't actually live. But that's not really relevant for now. But basically, that is the Markbook set up and done. It's ready to go. You can distribute that to staff. Now, as I say, if a new learner was to come into the school, you would simply a teacher can bring the Markbook to you. Well, look, if Sam's is set up on the network, then the teacher will be able to click refresh data from their computer where they are in the school, and it'll bring through any new learners. If it's a new staff member that's arrived, obviously you just give them your version of the Markbook, this version of the Markbook. So quite simply, what you can do is you can, all schools have kind of different modus operandi, but you can take this Markbook, copy it, and you can paste it onto the server or a shared file location that all the teachers have access to, and paste it on there. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll bring my desktop across here. Okay, so this is now me on the teacher's machine, and they could go to their shared drive, pick up the Markbook, okay, copy it, and paste it. Now, what I'll do is in the second part of this tutorial, where I'll focus on using the program, using the Markbook as just as if I was a normal teacher. I'll show them how they can quickly copy it to their CISOF and make a shortcut to the desktop. It's very simple. You've all done it before, but in future, what we'll eventually work on is a little install file, because it won't be very difficult to do. It's just obviously a question of time at this point. But as I say, this is a very easy way of doing it so far. They will be able to log on to their Markbook from their side, and they could log on. Okay, I just made up a bogus password and all the rest of it for that. And if they were to click subject mark capture, and as I say, I'll go through this for the teacher themselves. Right. Click their home, their language, choose their subject, their class, click load learners. Right. Now you'd notice that, and we're going to go through this now, you'll notice that SAMS has picked up the Markbook has picked up the mark profiles from SAMS. Picked up the weightings, it's picked up the totals, and people who know how these things work in terms of the CAPS curriculum, etc., will know that where there is activities involved, you capture marks, and the task is then calculated. Right, that's a task. If for instance here, this is a task that's made up of 2 activities. Where there are tasks that have no activities, marks are captured straight in. As I say, I'll go through that again when I do the teacher's version of the tutorial. And I think that academic heads, well, this will be relevant more for your sort of academic heads in that as well, because I'm going to go through one of the profiles, and then in future what I'm going to try and do, because I've been working with somebody quite closely who's got a number of breakdowns so far, who's been assisting me in terms of getting mark breakdowns for the CAPS curriculum. So I've started gathering them here, and there are discrepancies between what the CAPS document, the breakdown of the CAPS document is saying, and what the SAMS profile is saying. And as I say, I'll take you through that now quickly. Well, I'll give you an example of, say, English grade 8, and what you can sort of do to adjust it or work around where there are discrepancies, and to try and get the mark profiles to match how you would have been doing things in your school. As well, because there is that too. There's the way you might have interpreted it. You might have extra activities over and above what the CAPS documents might say. But let's work through it piece by piece, and we'll iron out these things. And another thing that the person I've been working with has been saying, because he's actually been to the department and chatted to them about some of these discrepancies, and they've acknowledged that they are there, and they'll be working on them. And the department quite rightly said that a lot of these things, schools haven't been going through the mark profiles and bringing it to their attention, so they've in a sense have been unaware of it. And of course, these things have been implemented on a national scale across the board, so it's very far-reaching. And so, I'd probably quite easy for the left hand not to see what the right hand is doing. And as I say, so you've got the program set up in one sense, the way they've set it up, because they've set up SAMS as structured. Okay, and let's actually log in so we can see what I mean. For example, where they've decided there's formal assessments, If that's a formal assessment, you can't remove it. You can't remove a formal assessment. You have to actually enter marks. And let's have a look at what I mean right now. Okay, so let's go to um, let's go to the profiles first. So we'll go to grade 8, say English home language. Alright, so you'll notice here, for example, that they've got oral for term 1, and it's got an activity count of 2, alright, and a raw task total of 45. Now, if I was to actually go capture marks and go to that, you would see what I mean from the mark sheet itself. Okay. Okay, so there you've got 20 and 25 for oral 1, which gives you a mark out of 45. Now, if you go to the CAPS curriculum document, and obviously they're all very extensive, but this is a kind of a rough breakdown, if you like. According to the CAPS document, you've got one activity, all right. And remember, we said in the case where there's only one activity for a given task, that, well, then you enter a mark for that task, so to speak. So they've only got one, and it's out of 15. But according to SAMS, there are two activities, and as you could see from that mark sheet, and one's out of 20 and one's out of 45. But the CAPS document saying there's one and it's out of 15. So you can edit these things. So if we go oral 1 formal, and we say edit task, and incidentally, it's not going to be long before they break these things down even further, so it's all coming. But for now, this will be ticked as not used by default, and they're not after that right now. So you'll see here that there are the two activities they've got within that task, one out of 20 and one out of 45. Now, you can't you can't do anything with that, right? So if I click save, no, sorry, we have to. So you can't maintain task activities. All right, so you want to edit. You want to edit the activity. Here we go. So if let's say you try and delete an activity. Okay, it says this is a formal activity and you cannot delete it. So what have schools been doing? Well, some schools have gotten smart and they've said, okay, well, that's fine. And as I say, the department is aware of this, or certain sectors of the department are aware of this. Some of the people that have been bringing it to their attention are aware of this, and you can certainly use this demo to bring it to their attention in your district. And so the more of the district departments that know that can bring this to the attention of head office, hopefully they can alter these things in the patches so that SAMS matches the curriculum documents that they have, the CAPS documents. So what they've done is they've made this mark out of 14, for example. So they've said, okay, well, it's one activity. Well, we're going to treat it as if it's one activity. And we're going to put this mark out of 14. So if you go, you can edit this activity, and you can say, I've got to just work out how to do this quickly. Sorry, yeah, okay, so you click maintain dates, marks, weights. Okay, so you stick this one out of 14. Alright, and you put that out of 1. And then you click save. Okay, you say yes. And you can actually... Oh, now remember that this mark here, this task raw total is saying 45. And if you try and click on that, it doesn't want you to change. So what you've actually got to do is you've got to click done. And that kind of activates it, so to speak, as my dad always used to say, initializes it. And then you can actually change that mark to 15. Alright, now we can click save and say done. Now for schools that have got more than the said amount of activities in their thing, you can add activities to that. And I must say, given all the work we've been doing, I haven't practiced that extensively, but what I do know is that whatever you do in SAMS, and this is the beauty of our Markbook, it'll pick that up from their tables. Because remember, the one advantage front office has is that our tables are in the same format as SAM's tables. It's very easy for us to bounce in between, in and around and in between. And alright, so you'll see now that this has changed to, it still says activity count of 2, we can't do anything about that, but the raw task total is 15. Okay, and now it's going to want you to validate this subject again, right? So you've got to do that in order for the worksheets to be able to be produced, and you just say yes. Now let's go to capture marks and actually see what it's done. Alright, so there's our English Home Language Grade 8. Okay, so you can see that this spreadsheet is arranged itself, and one is out of 14 and one is out of 1, and then what folks have been doing is capturing, you know, if the child has got 13 out of 15, then they've been capturing 12 out of 14 and say 1 out of 1 out of 1. Alright, so that you're coming up, so that your total is coming up as 14 out of 15, which doesn't seem correct. Sorry, I forgot to mention that back in this screen, you'll see that the contribution needs to change, the weighted contribution needs to change of these, because 14 versus 1 is no longer 40-60, obviously. So what you have to do is click auto calculate weight, and then it saves it, which is why on that previous screen it jumped to 14. So I'll show you what I mean now when we go back. So now it's worked out the correct contribution, weighted contribution. So if we click on alright, we've got to validate this again, so we can go to the mark sheet. So we click capture marks. So you can see that okay, I didn't save those previous marks that I captured, but so yeah, alright, so let's say if I'd say 12 and 1, then you would get your 13 out of 15, and you can see the weighted contribution has changed over there. The important thing is that this weight actually doesn't really come into the picture at the end of the day, but it's just so that it just shows you what it's not like this weighting is used in the calculation. All it does is it shows you what the ratio is between your raw mark totals. Okay, and I've actually noticed that when going through these sheets that initially they weren't correct, even in the default version of SAMS, the default installation, that as it is now, like I've loaded it now, and actually if I had to go into each of these profiles and go and actually tell it to, you see the default there was 25 and 20, which so the one was 25 out of a total of 45, and the one was 20 out of a total of 45, and it was saying 60-40, which is actually by default is incorrect. The contribution between these two things is actually 55-44. So I had to manually come in here to each one and click auto calculate weight so that it adjusts itself to the correct thing. But as I say, in some cases you're going to be playing with that anyway and adjusting it according to your school. So as best you can, as I say, because in some cases you're going to be forced to make a plan like we did there, because Cap says you need only one activity mark, and Sam's is saying that there's two. Now, or you may even have three activities that you've done in your school. Okay, so you'll have to be having to click auto calculate weights anyway, so that it adjusts itself. Now, folks, you know, obviously, given the massive amount of development, and it's no joke. I mean, I wish, for those of you who knew my old man, I wish that, or hope that he's been watching what we've been getting up to, my brother in particular, because it's just been absolutely mind-bending, and but fun and enjoyable, just like my dad used to be. Like, people probably thought he was weird, but he just enjoyed pulling off the stupendously, ridiculously awesome things. And so we're trying to follow in his footsteps, um, and some. And okay, so what ultimately what I want to do is to actually be able to build these profiles, because we can get access to the back end of these things, and we'll figure out where the little bells and whistles are blowing up in the jumping up and jumping down in their back end, in their tables, and we'll work out how to manipulate it. I'm not saying that we could force things that are formal assess. Well, we probably could, but I wouldn't want to step on any toes and say start removing formal assessments and that. But we may be able to build these profile screens in the Markbook, which would give you slightly more flexibility in dealing with them. Um, Particularly, you know, and again, I think in the first year there's going to be these teething problems. As I said, even the department has acknowledged um, that there maybe there's these discrepancies, and quite rightly they need feedback from the school so that they know what to take back to head office and say, look, can you adjust these things for us? Right. So let me. What I wanted to do was to show you how in the Markbook now the Markbook columns would have adjusted themselves, um, so that you can see the new profile that we've set up. Okay, so we're going to go back to our Markbook in the C ISOF folder, and I get so dear my car with all these folders I have open all the time. But okay, see, just because I live in England, I haven't forgotten my roots, eh? Right, so here we go. Anyway, jokes aside, FrontOFFICE Markbook, and let's go and get the grade 8 English teacher here. So we're going to go Boyce, no, sorry, Gordon. I think it was that, yes. Okay, don't worry about the set for now. That was part of the old structure, and we might bring it in now, but you don't have to use it at the moment, because this is where you load your structures. Alright, so English Home Language Grade 8, we'll say N. See, it picks up their classes. Term 1. Okay, display mark sheet. Sorry, I forgot to mention that once you've set up your profiles in SAMS, or you make alterations to your SAMS profiles, what you do is the administrator of the Markbook is you log in as yourself, and if you do that, you'll see that this refresh data button becomes open, and all that you have to do is click refresh data, and um, it will upload anything that's in here, and then it'll pull new tables across back into the system, so you wouldn't lose anything that's in there. As far as the teachers are concerned, all they have to do is, if they've got data to be uploaded, they just click upload, and then you can refresh the Markbook, stick it back into the server, and they simply replace the Markbook they've replaced their Markbook and their CISOF folder with yours. So what I've done is I've clicked refresh data. You'll see what I mean. If you click refresh data, it'll upload anything that's in here first. And if I say if your SAM's data is on the server, teachers can do this refresh from their point, and they don't have to replace anything. They just click refresh and it brings through any new profiles or learners or anything like that. If your SAM's data is being run locally on your machine, then you simply click refresh data from your side and you make the new Markbook available on the server. And then teachers must just make sure before they replace their Markbook that they've clicked upload, which is this button over here, and I'll show you how that works both in this demo and in the demo that is released, which is just specifically really aimed at the teachers themselves. It'll be far less complicated than this. It's just a case of saying your administrator will tell you where your Markbook is, take it, save it to your CISOF folder, make a shortcut to your desktop, open it, log in, click subject mark capture, choose your goodies, you know, your name and your subject and your classes and your term, as we did in the subject mark capture screen. Click display mark sheet, click save marks, and then I will show them how I can show them what things will look like when they're working at home and when they're at school, and when they can click upload marks. It's very simple. Alright, so we'll just wait for that to finish refreshing. Okay, that took about a minute. So we can log in again. Okay, go to subject mark capture, and you'll see it's now refreshed itself with the profiles that we've set up. Okay, so you can see there's the 14 and the one that it's out of. Alright, don't worry about these -4s, it's just adding them together. It's not going to go through to SAMs like that. -2 just means there's no mark being captured, and the -4 is just it's adding them together because it thinks that's what it must do, but it wouldn't be uploaded to SAMs like that, and it is something we'll look at down the line, but ultimately once you start capturing marks, that'll disappear. Okay, so let's actually capture a couple of marks just for, so we'll go for 8N here, and we'll put let's say 10 in here, and put the 1 in because let's say they got 11 out of 15. Okay, say 20 out of 25. Improvement through the term. Let's do another one just for sake of. Okay, 1. Okay. Now what they do is they click save captured marks. Alright. It'll actually flip through the records. Don't worry if you don't see this little black box getting all the way to the end. It's just your screen refresh rate catching up to what the memory is actually doing. Okay, mark capturing has been saved. You close the screen like normal. You don't have. Oh, okay. I can see it's actually put the marks here. But if they wanted to see, you would notice that these didn't come out straight away as you captured the marks, the totals. They can just click calculate tasks, and it just refreshes it so that they can see what the totals are for that. Alright, so they've clicked save capture marks. That's fine. Now those marks would actually be in FrontOFFICE. What's actually happened is they've gone and they've been stored in FrontOFFICE. We'll have a look at. It's not really important, but you see these are the tables that they've actually been stored in. Right. Okay. Now, in FrontOFFICE, the next time you do an export, okay, those marks will be transferred through to SAM. So I'm going to do an export, and I'm going to pause it now because it takes about 5 minutes. Alright. Right, so that export process is finished. So from the Markbook that we've captured, and this was capturing in the Markbook from, I guess you could say, from the administrator's machine, even though we were logged in as a teacher. Excuse me. Okay, so if we go to grade 8 English 8N, I think it was. Okay, subject has not been validated. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Being silly here. Late at night. So we had clicked we had clicked save capture marks once we're done. Now this was the thing. I didn't upload the marks to FrontOffice. Okay, so in this case, you can see that you're actually sitting at school and you've got this thing open at school, and you know this because it says link to the data is available. In other words, it can see this data, and it's saying if you want to upload, you can. And this is that's what a teacher will see. Okay, so you click go live. Right now it's telling you link to the data is active, so it won't let you capture any marks now. Now you can click upload. Okay. So what that's actually done is it's gone and stored the marks in FrontOffice. Okay. So as I say, you can actually exit this Markbook. Let's just exit Sam's there. FrontOffice is going to want to open and close again because it wants to change the date format. So you'll notice that happens when you switch between Sam's and FrontOffice. FrontOffice will want you to it wants to change this date forward, which is important. So just obviously allow it to do that. It will want you to it'll close and want you to open again, which is it's a little bit annoying at the moment, but believe me, it's better than the alternative, which is capturing dates and things in the wrong formats. And we know exactly how to make an alteration to sort it so that it relaunches itself automatically, but there's just a little bit of development time involved. But those little nice to have things will come. Right, so we go open it again so that okay. So as I say, if we went into this table, we would actually be able, again, as I say, this won't mean much to you, but you could see the marks would have been getting uploaded. Sorry, that's not that's going to be these ones here. Okay, these were the marks we were capturing. Okay, so bear with me. Forgot my processes there, but obviously I'll hone this in. As I say, this part of it is more relevant for the second part of this tutorial, which will be for the teachers themselves. But it's handy just to see the process from the administrator's point of view. The administrator will obviously once the markbooks have been done, will be clicking this export to SAM's so that the marks can actually be seen in SAM's. And one could do it intermittently. I mean, after X amount of marks have been captured, you can go and test the export to see how they're coming through, and then do it again later on. And for those of you, I meant to say as well, that are exporting to SAM's over the server, over the network, and have found it really slow for your networks, I can show you a very easy way of making it export locally which is why I built this shelving process here, which is very neat for quickly making your front office local and doing an export that way. So just let us know and we can do it for you ship sharp. Okay, so I'm just going to run another export and pause. It takes about 5 minutes per export as it's got a lot of data to export. Right, that export is done, so we can return to Sam's. Log in. A10, I believe it was. Right, and you can see the scores that we were entering. This was the other thing, folks. You'll see that in SAMS it'll work out the term marks. So in the previous submission, Kyle and I found a way for it to take the term 1 mark from front office and just kind of bypass all this and stick it into the term 1 um, uh, result in SAMS. They sort of expected the marks, but in fact one of our users was asked to come into the department to explain how they managed to get marks in without entering the curriculum marks. They were left rather perplexed, but anyway, we did it. But now at this point, the way it works is that obviously now that you're entering curriculum marks, SAMS will work out its marks, so we don't need to export the actual term marks from front office, which is actually a good thing, because in front office the term 2 mark that you enter isn't necessarily the term 2 mark. Right, when front office was developed way back in the day, my dad had term 1, 2, 3, 4 right in the beginning, and your mark was what you entered for the term, and that showed on the report. Then folks said, no, well, we want the June exam and the December exam to show. So my dad added a term 5 and a term 6. Your June exam was entered into term 5 and your December exam was entered into term 6, and you adjusted your weightings accordingly. I'll just give you another brief rundown on the weightings. Most of you know these already, although I do know that for some reason weighting seems to be a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand. So even those that have been working it for a long time still don't quite fathom it out, and we kind of have to end up working out the weightings for a lot of folks. But just to log in quickly and show you where your year weightings actually takes place as far as front office is concerned. I'll give you a brief idea of. I mean, there are so many permutations. You could literally use it to work anything out, especially now that we've added 10 terms. Oh, and that was the other thing I was going to say, was that what we can also do now, because actually the Markbook, we know which results that are being captured are SBA marks. So we can start to single these marks out and pull them into front office as well. And we've got the raw mark and we've got the total. So in time these things can also be included in the reports. But obviously, we're going to work baby steps and in bite sizes here, as people don't want to drastically be changing their report designs. This is kind of like a marriage process where the two systems are kind of all coming together to meet the way schools have done things internally versus how the department wants. And as I said, as I pointed out earlier in the demo, they're going to be narrowing things down to even more in depth than the curriculum marks to the actual subcategories within that, the topics as it were. But these are your weightings. So for example, this weighting that's set up for this particular thing is is they're entering a term 1 mark, term 2 mark, a term 3 mark, and a term 4 mark. Well, I say term, they're entering a mark into the term 1 column. You could call it the mark 1 column if you like. The mark 2 column, the 3 column, and the 4 column. Okay, and in this particular case, term 1 is weighted 1, 2 is weighted 1, 3 is weighted 1, and 4 is weighted 1. In other words, all 4 of them are weighted equally. So they're having a situation where the first 3 terms are going to count 3 out of a total of 4, which is 3 out of 4, which is 75%. And the fourth term is going to count 1 out of 4, which is 25%. Let's say you're entering a mark in term 2 and a mark in your June exam, and you enter the June exam into the term 5 column, and you wanted the weighting to be 25, 75, then you would make that, you would make that second number a 1 and that fifth number a 3. Okay, so that would count 1 out of 1 plus 3, which is 4. 1 out of 4 is 25%, and that would count 3 out of 3 plus 1, which is 4. 3 out of 4 is 75%. And just as a quick crash course on how you would add a new weighting, so if that wasn't on your waiting list already, your weightings list, you could always go and add a weighting in data editing, or replace an existing one if you know you're not going to use it. So let's say at this point you're not really worried about the rest of the marks, you're only worried about term 2, so you could have something like that. And then in your set classes you can go and change those relevant weightings to the new weighting that you've added. Okay, and what you can also do if you want to be sneaky is if you see all these classes, you know that all the classes that are set to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, you want to change to that weighting. So what you can do is you can actually go to the weighting and change the 1, 1, 1 here to 0. When I fiddle with it, I only ever change 1 weighting, or 2 weightings for across the phases, or 3 if you're a school that goes from grade 1 to 12. So 3 different phase weightings. And then you would see that in set classes that 1, 1, 1 that I'd changed all the way down to the weighting that I wanted. But I mean, you could play with it in any number of permutations. So as I say, the marks you enter into FrontOFFICE, the final term marks you enter into FrontOFFICE, whether you glean them off your Excel markbooks, off the markbooks that you're sending through to SAMS, we won't change the way you enter those marks into FrontOFFICE, because they, as I say, they tie up with your report. And if someone's entering it like this, then in their term 2 report, they no doubt have a column that shows the references term 2 and references term 5, and the headings of the columns say class mark and June exam mark. Okay, so but as I say, in time we will come to marry these things, and report designs can start to change and alter as you all wrap your minds around how all of this is done. Now, I just wanted to quickly briefly run you, because this video is very long, it's involved, and there's just so much more that could be covered, and I know that I can't upload a video to YouTube that is, I think it's starting to get near its limit. So I just wanted to quickly run through you as the administrator. You can disseminate this information to whoever is relevant. In order to run this Markbook, the first thing is that they must have a CISOF folder on their computers, right? The people that are taking the Markbook. They must have Microsoft Access, minimum 2007, preferably 2013 and up. They must have the same map drive to the iSoft on the server folder as the administrator does. Okay, so like your F drive or I drive or whatever it might be. But basically, the simple rule is if they have FrontOFFICE on their machine already, then points 1 to 3 are satisfied. And as I've pointed out a couple of times in this tutorial, if SAMS is on the network, then they can actually refresh
their Markbooks from their machines. But otherwise, refreshing must be done on the administrator's machine. And as I say, refreshing is only really for new learners, or new Mark profiles, or staff profiles. And the administrator can refresh their Markbook and pop it back onto the server. Okay, so you could refresh your Markbook. Just to recap, you see ISO folder, and then you simply copy it, pop it onto your server, your shared drive, and paste, and they can take it and place it into their CISOF folder and replace the one they have. And as I say, there's no need for them to link or do anything like that. And they can create their own their own shortcut to the desktop. It's very straightforward. Okay, my desktop's full of nonsense, so there it is over there. And of course, I'll throw this into the next demo as well. They can go and choose an icon for themselves that they may want. Okay, so the second part of the demo I'll release in good time. It is 10 past 1 in the morning, and I've been trying to get better hours these days so that I'm sharper during the day. So I'm going to call it a night. As I say, that's the first part of the tutorial, and then I'll release a simpler, more concise tutorial that's really going to involve a teacher just receiving the Markbook, opening it, capturing some marks, clicking save the marks, and then clicking upload. And I'll show them what it'll look like if they're at home and they've opened it. It'll tell them that they can't see the data, but it wouldn't allow them to try and update anyway because it'll disable that button. And then when they're on site at school, that button becomes enabled. Well, it tells them that they can see the data. They click go live, and that the upload button becomes available, and they upload it. But we'll run through that in the next tutorial.